If you ride an older horse, there is an important question you need to ask during warm weather. Is your senior horse becoming dangerously hot before you realize it? Research suggests the answer could be yes. Older horses can experience a much faster rise in body temperature during exercise than younger horses completing the same work. In one study, senior horses reached a core temperature of 104 degrees Fahrenheit in approximately 17 minutes. The younger horses took around 32 minutes to reach that same temperature. That means the senior horse heated up in nearly half the time. And while this does not mean older horses should automatically stop exercising, it does mean we might need to rethink what light work really feels like to an aging horse. Today, we are looking at why senior horses can overheat faster, how to recognize the warning signs of heat stress, and what owners and riders can do to exercise older horses more safely in hot weather. Because the horse who has taken care of us for years deserves that same care in return. Before we continue, remember that this video is educational and cannot replace advice for your veterinarian. So why do senior horses overheat faster during exercise? The simple answer is that aging can make it more difficult for a horse's body to meet two major demands at the same time: supplying oxygen to working muscles and carrying heat away from the body's core. When a horse exercises, its muscles create heat. That heat must be moved through the bloodstream toward the skin, where sweating and evaporation can help release it into the environment. But the horse's blood is also needed to deliver oxygen to those working muscles. In a younger, healthy, and properly conditioned horse, the cardiovascular system can usually balance these demands efficiently. In an older horse, that balancing act might become more difficult. A foundational study led by equine exercise physiologist Kenneth McKeever compared 6 younger standard-bred mares, averaging about 8 years old, with 5 older mares averaging approximately 26. All 11 horses were described as unfit, which is an important detail. They exercised on an inclined treadmill at the same calculated workload until their core temperature reached 40 degrees Celsius, or 104 degrees Fahrenheit. The older horses reached that temperature after an average of 998 seconds, roughly 16 minutes and 38 seconds. The younger horses took an average of 1,925 seconds, or just over 32 minutes. The difference was dramatic. At the 104-degree endpoint, the older horses had an average heart rate of 184 beats per minute. The younger horses averaged 140 beats per minute. In other words, the older horses were not only getting hotter faster, their cardiovascular systems were working much harder to perform the same absolute workload. However, this result needs to be interpreted carefully. The higher heart rate does not prove by themselves exactly why the senior horses heated up faster. They do show that the same workload represented a greater relative effort for the older horses. What appeared equal on paper was not necessarily equal inside the horses' bodies, and that distinction has enormous practical importance. 2 horses can travel at the same speed, climb the same hill, or complete the same arena exercise while experiencing very different levels of physical strain. Your older horse might still look willing. He might still prick his ears when you collect the bridle. He might even feel enthusiastic at the beginning of the ride. But willingness does not guarantee that his body is coping with the workload as easily as it once did. The researchers also investigated plasma volume, which could provide part of the explanation. Plasma is a liquid portion of blood. It helps support circulation and also provides fluid the horse can use to produce sweat. In the second part of the research, plasma volume was measured in 26 younger and 8 older standardbred mares. The younger horses averaged 28.5 liters of plasma, compared with 24.1 liters in seniors. That was approximately 15% less plasma in the older horses. The researchers did not directly prove that reduced plasma volume caused the senior horse's temperature to rise faster. However, the findings offer a plausible piece of puzzle. If an older horse begins with less circulating fluid, his body might have fewer resources available to support both cardiovascular function and sweating during exercise. It is also worth noting that the senior horses in the treadmill study actually had greater estimated sweat loss. So the message is not simply that every older horse sweats less. A horse can sweat heavily and still struggle to control his body temperature. Sweat only cools effectively when it evaporates. On a humid day, the air is already holding a large amount of moisture, so evaporation slows down. Sweat can run off the horse without removing enough heat. This is why humidity matters as much as temperature. Direct sunlight, poor airflow, high humidity, an unfit horse, excess body condition, a long or thick coat, dehydration, and certain health conditions can all increase the challenge. Tack and protective boots can also trap heat over covered areas. For senior horses, these factors can overlap. An older horse might have reduced cardiovascular capacity, a lower level of fitness, and age-related conditions such as pituitary pars intermedia dysfunction, commonly called PPID, and a coat that is longer or slower to shed. None of these factors should be treated as a diagnosis based on appearance alone, but together they demonstrate why hot weather exercise must be tailored to the individual horse. So what are the signs that a horse is becoming too hot? Watch for breathing that remains rapid or labored, a heart rate that usually stays unusually elevated, excess sweating or suddenly reduced sweating, weakness, distress, poor coordination, unusual fatigue, and changes in behavior. A horse in trouble might appear dull, unwilling to coordinate, or less responsive than normal. He might stumble, seem confused, or struggle to recover after stopping. Do not wait for a horse to collapse before treating this situation seriously. You should learn your own horse's normal resting temperature, pulse, and respiration when he is healthy. A number becomes far more useful when you know how it compares with that horse's usual baseline. Monitoring a recovery is especially important. Following exercise, the horse's heart and respiratory rates should generally move back towards baseline, and his temperature should begin to decrease. If his temperature has not started falling within approximately 30 minutes, or if it remains above 105 degrees Fahrenheit, even while decreasing exercise, continue active cooling and seek veterinary guidance. Weakness, poor condition, persistent distress, or continuously elevated vital signs can indicate an emergency requiring immediate veterinary attention. If you are unsure, call your veterinarian. With suspected heat illness, waiting to see whether a struggling horse eventually improves can waste valuable time. So how should you cool a hot senior horse? Move him out of direct sunlight and into a shaded, well-ventilated area. Remove the saddle and unnecessary equipment. Apply cool or cold water across the body, especially over large muscle groups, and keep replacing water as it warms. Walking can help move air across wet skin if the horse is stable and comfortable enough to walk. A fan can also increase evaporation when it can be used safely. For many years, horse owners warned that cold water applied to hot muscles could cause cramping or that water had to be scraped away immediately because it would somehow trap heat. Those beliefs should not prevent prompt cooling. Continuously applying cool water is an effective way to transfer heat away from the body. Scraping can be useful when you need to remove warmed water before applying more, but do not allow scraping to delay repeated wetting. The priority is to keep the cooling process moving. Offer fresh water, but never force water into a horse's mouth. Discuss electrolyte use with your veterinarian or a qualified equine nutritional professional, particularly if the horse sweats heavily, has a medical condition, or receives medication. Electrolytes are not a magical shield against overheating. They should be part of a complete plan that includes water, appropriate exercise, acclimation, shade, airflow, and monitoring. The best protection begins before the ride. Whenever possible, exercise early in the morning or later in the evening, avoiding the hottest and most humid part of the day. Reduce intensity and duration when conditions are difficult. Include regular walk breaks and choose shaded routes when available. Remember that the appropriate adjustment might be more substantial for a senior horse than for a younger horse. Cutting 5 minutes from a demanding session does not automatically make that session safe. Warm up gradually and treat the warm up as part of the total workload. The same applies to the cool down. A senior horse might benefit from a longer, quieter transition at both ends of the ride. But prolonged walking in extreme heat is still exercise. If the horse is becoming hotter rather than recovering, stop working and begin an active cooling. Fitness also matters. A conditioned senior might handle exercise better than an unfit younger horse in some circumstances. Age is only one part of the picture. The treadmill research involved a small number of unfit standardbred mares under controlled conditions, so its exact numbers cannot be applied to every breed, discipline, or individual horse. We should not conclude that every 26-year-old horse will reach 104 degrees Fahrenheit in 17 minutes. What the study does show us is that age can materially change how horses respond to a standardized workload. It gives owners a strong reason to pay closer attention rather than relying on assumptions. Build fitness progressively. After time off, do not expect a senior horse to return immediately to his former routine. Reassess his workload after illness, injury, medication changes, or a long seasonal break. Schedule regular veterinary examinations and discuss whether the horse has any condition that could interfere with exercise, hydration, sweating, or recovery. And perhaps most importantly, learn to recognize the quiet signals. Senior horses are often celebrated for being dependable. They know their jobs. They conserve energy. They rarely create unnecessary drama. But those qualities can make physical stress easier to overlook. An experienced horse might continue trying because that is what he has always done. He might not protest dramatically when the work becomes difficult. His generosity can hide his limitations. That is why riders must willingly try to finish early. Not because the horse has failed, but because good horsemanship means recognizing when continuing offers no benefit. So can senior horses still be ridden in the summer? For many older horses, yes, provided they are medically sound, appropriately conditioned, and managed for the conditions. Being a senior horse does not automatically make a horse fragile, nor does it establish a universal retirement age. But the workload should belong to the horse you have today, not the horse you remember from 10 years ago. On one day, that might mean a normal schooling session. On another, it can mean a quiet walk in the shade. During extreme heat or humidity, the kindest and safest decision might be to skip the ride entirely. There is no lost fitness, training goal, or competition result worth risking heat stroke. The most important message from this research is not that older horses are incapable. It's that the physical cost of exercise can change with age, even when the exercise itself looks unchanged. The same hill can become steeper. The same 20-minute ride can become harder. And the same summer temperature can place a very difficult demand on an aging body. So before your next warm weather ride, check the forecast. Consider the humidity. Know your horse's normal vital signs. Carry a thermometer. Plan how you will cool him, and pay attention to how quickly he can recover. Most of all, listen when his body tells you that today's limit is different from yesterday's. Senior horses have spent years teaching us patience, feel, and responsibility. Caring for them in hot weather is another opportunity to put those lessons into practice. So have you noticed your older horse becoming hotter, breathing harder, or taking longer to recover during summer exercise? Share your experience in the comments. Thank you so much for joining us. And remember, I am not AI. If you listen closely, you can hear me breathing.